By Wednesday morning, the graduation banners had multiplied. Outside the main office, across the gym balcony, taped crookedly above trophy cases. Every hallway now carried the same quiet message. You are being counted toward an ending. Naomi noticed people differently during graduation season. Teachers smiled longer at seniors. Parents lingered outside school pickup lines as if proximity could slow time. Students suddenly photographed lunches, lockers, parking spaces, ordinary afternoons. Proof collection. Evidence they had existed here. Naomi moved through it carefully, like someone walking across ice that looked solid until you listened closely. Second period study hall had been converted into graduation verification appointments. One student at a time. Final attendance reviews. Name confirmations. Diploma spellings. Mrs. Garza, the guidance counselor, wore reading glasses low on her nose while clicking through files on her computer. You're still waiting on senior portrait submission, she said without looking up. Naomi sat with her hands folded tightly inside her sleeves. I know. Mrs. Garza finally glanced toward her. Not judgmental. Mostly tired. You don't have to buy packages. We just need something for records. Naomi looked at the framed class photos lining the office wall behind her. 20 years of smiling faces. Rows of documented existence. My yearbook photo can just stay blank. Mrs. Garza paused typing. That's not really how they do it anymore. How did they do it before? The question landed oddly. Mrs. Garza frowned slightly. What do you mean? Naomi shrugged faintly. You said anymore. A silence opened. Not dangerous. Just uncomfortable enough to matter. Mrs. Garza leaned back carefully in her chair. You've avoided photos since middle school. Naomi looked down. Not surprised the school kept track. Some students just don't like cameras, Mrs. Garza continued gently. But graduation records are different. Records. The word sat heavily in Naomi's chest. Mrs. Garza softened her tone. Look, I'm not trying to pressure you. But she was. Professionally. Institutionally. The kind of pressure that smiled while tightening around people. Naomi nodded once. I'll think about it. Mrs. Garza watched her longer than necessary. Then finally clicked Naomi's file closed. Okay. But her expression said, this conversation isn't over. At lunch, Jordan sat across from Naomi without asking. Not aggressively. Just with the confidence of someone who'd already calculated the risk. The cafeteria buzzed around them with the loud exhaustion of teenagers pretending not to be anxious about adulthood. Naomi picked at fries she wasn't eating. Jordan opened a milk carton badly and spilled some onto his tray. You're really committed to professionalism, Naomi said quietly. He grabbed napkins. I like appearing approachable. You look concussed. That too. A small smile touched Naomi's mouth before disappearing. Jordan noticed immediately. Not because he was observant. Because Naomi smiled so rarely it changed the atmosphere around her when she did. You vanished after first bell, he said. I had guidance. Oof. My condolences. Naomi wiped salt from her fingertips carefully. They want graduation photos. Jordan leaned back. Everyone wants graduation photos. That's the problem. He studied her for a second. Not pushing yet. Learning. You know what's weird, he said finally. That you keep talking to me? Besides that. He lowered his voice slightly. I checked older yearbooks. Naomi's posture changed immediately. Tiny shift. Shoulders tightening. Jordan noticed that too. I'm not stalking you, he added quickly. I work there. What did you find? Nothing. That doesn't sound reassuring. I mean literally nothing. He hesitated. Some years your photo space is blank. Naomi looked at him steadily now. No smile left. Around them, cafeteria noise swelled and blurred. Someone dropped a tray nearby. A group of boys shouted across tables. Normal life continuing around a conversation neither of them fully understood. Jordan spoke carefully. Mrs. Alden got weird when I mentioned it. Naomi looked back down at her untouched fries. Adults get weird about lots of things. Not like that. A pause. Then quietly. Do you know why? Naomi's fingers tightened around a napkin until it tore slightly. She noticed too late. I don't know, she answered. True. Mostly. Jordan watched her a moment longer. Then deliberately changed subjects. You going to the fundraiser Friday? Naomi blinked once at the transition. The church thing. My mom volunteered me against my will. You say that like you weren't going anyway. Correct. That almost earned another smile. Almost. Instead Naomi stood, gathering her tray. You're very persistent. Jordan shrugged. I'm nosy in a community-approved way. She looked at him for a long second. And that sounds exhausting too. Before he could answer, she walked away. Jordan watched her disappear through the cafeteria doors carrying her tray untouched. He looked down afterward and noticed the torn napkin she'd left behind, shredded unconsciously into tiny pieces. That evening Elena stood in line at the grocery store holding too many things she didn't need. Crackers, dish soap, a magazine she would never read. The fluorescent lights made everyone look tired. A little girl near the checkout kept asking her mother to take a picture beside the Easter candy display. Mom. 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 The mother sighed dramatically but lifted her phone anyway. Fine. Smile. Elena looked away immediately. Her grip tightened around the shopping basket handle. Long day. Elena startled slightly. Sandra Wilkes stood behind her in line holding flowers and frozen dinners. Sandra had worked pediatric intake at County Memorial years ago before retiring. She still spoke with the brisk gentleness of a hospital employee. Elena. Sandra smiled warmly. Haven't seen you in forever. Elena forced a polite smile back. Yeah. Work's been busy. Sandra nodded. Then casually. How's Naomi doing? Too casual. Elena felt it immediately. She's good. She must be graduating soon. MHM. Sandra adjusted the flowers in her cart. She always was such a quiet little thing. Elena's heartbeat shifted. Not faster. Heavier. She still hates pictures? Sandra asked lightly. The question landed with frightening precision. Elena stared at her. Sandra immediately seemed to realize something. Not the truth. Just discomfort. Oh God, Sandra said softly. I didn't mean anything by that. Elena looked toward the conveyor belt instead of at her. It's fine. But her voice had thinned slightly. Sandra stepped carefully backward emotionally. I just remembered. She used to turn away every time someone had a camera. Used to. Not. Still does. Elena paid too quickly, forgetting half her items. Outside, cold wind pushed loose receipts across the parking lot. She sat inside her car gripping the steering wheel without starting the engine. Breathing once. Twice. Then finally pulling down the sun visor mirror. She stared at herself. Not vanity. Verification. After several seconds she snapped it shut again. At home David was repairing the loose hinge beneath the kitchen sink. Toolbox open beside him. Country radio playing softly from his phone. Naomi entered quietly carrying library books. You know we could just buy a new cabinet. David glanced upward. And destroy years of tradition? You and this cabinet have history? We've both been through some things. Naomi set the books down. Small domestic moments with David often felt safest because they required nothing emotionally complicated. He handed her a screwdriver without asking. She crouched beside him automatically. Teamwork established years earlier through practical tasks instead of conversations. Hold this. Naomi steadied the hinge while David adjusted screws. The radio host laughed loudly about something neither of them was listening to. After a minute David spoke casually. Your mom had a rough day. Naomi kept her eyes on the hinge. What happened? She ran into somebody from the hospital. Okay. She's been quiet since. Naomi nodded faintly. David wiped grease from his fingers with a rag. You ever notice how some people get nervous before reunions? Naomi looked toward him. Are you asking me something? He smiled tiredly. Maybe. She studied him carefully. David rarely approached difficult subjects directly. He circled them, like someone checking unstable ice before stepping forward. Did Mom know Sandra before I was born? Naomi asked. The screwdriver slipped slightly in David's hand. Tiny sound. Metal against wood. She worked intake at County Memorial, he answered. That's not what I asked. David sat back against the cabinet. He looked suddenly older beneath the kitchen light. She knew your mom during a difficult time. What kind of difficult time? He opened his mouth, closed it. The silence stretched. Then Elena entered carrying grocery bags. All three of them froze slightly at once. Not visibly enough for strangers to notice. Enough for family. David immediately reached for the bags. How bad was the store? Elena looked between them quickly. What were you talking about? Cabinets, David answered too fast. Naomi noticed. Elena noticed Naomi noticing. Nobody challenged it. That was the family skill. Friday evening the church fundraiser filled the community center with folding tables, casserole dishes, raffle baskets, and exhausted volunteer smiles. Children ran between tables while older women argued politely about auction bids. The air smelled like coffee and baked pasta. Naomi stood near the beverage station refilling paper cups mechanically. Pastor Miriam approached quietly beside her. You always pick the jobs nobody fights over. Naomi handed her a fresh coffee. Less disappointing that way. Pastor Miriam smiled softly. She was one of the few adults Naomi never felt cornered by. Not because the pastor avoided difficult things. Because she didn't rush toward them. How's senior year treating you? Miriam asked. Naomi stacked lids carefully. It keeps trying to become an experience. That sounds serious. It feels organized. Miriam laughed gently under her breath. Across the room Elena spoke with church volunteers near the raffle table. Even from a distance Naomi could see the strain in her posture. Too upright. Too attentive. Like someone trying not to appear distracted. Miriam followed Naomi's gaze. Your mother looks tired. She is. She worries about you. Naomi's jaw tightened slightly. People keep saying that. And how does that make you feel? Naomi considered the question honestly. Managed. Pastor Miriam looked at her fully then. Not startled. Interested. Managed, she repeated softly. Naomi immediately seemed to regret saying it aloud. She focused back on the cups. I didn't mean. I know what you meant. That somehow felt worse. Before Naomi could respond, Jordan appeared carrying a box of donated books. I've been demoted to manual labor, he announced. Pastor Miriam smiled. That usually builds character. I was hoping for less character. Naomi took the box from him before he dropped it. Their hands brushed briefly again. Jordan noticed Naomi pulling away faster this time. He pretended not to. Your mom made me transport 3 separate dessert trays, he told Naomi quietly. I think she's preparing me for military service. She likes useful people. The sentence came out more serious than intended. Jordan looked at her carefully. Across the room Elena was already watching them. Not suspiciously. Protectively. That was somehow more uncomfortable. Later that night the fundraiser had thinned into cleanup mode. Folding chairs scraping floors. Half-finished conversations. People leaving in tired clusters. Naomi carried empty trays into the church kitchen. The room hummed with industrial refrigerators and low fluorescent lighting. For the first time all evening she was alone. Or thought she was. You disappeared. Jordan leaned against the doorway holding rolled tablecloths. You tracked me down anyway. I'm annoyingly committed. Naomi rinsed trays beneath warm water. For a while only running water filled the silence. Then Jordan spoke more quietly. "Can I ask something without you leaving?" "That depends. Did something happen with your family and photos?" Naomi shut off the faucet. Not defensive. Just still. Jordan immediately regretted the phrasing. "You don't have to answer that." "I know." The kitchen lights buzzed softly overhead. Naomi dried her hands carefully with a paper towel. "When I was little," she said slowly, "my mom used to get upset if people took pictures without asking." Jordan stayed silent. Good instinct. She'd say some things didn't need to follow people forever. The phrase landed oddly, like something repeated many times over years. "What things?" Jordan asked softly. Naomi looked toward the dark church windows. "I don't know." True again. And not true enough. Jordan stepped slightly closer. Not invasive. Careful. "You ever think maybe she was protecting herself instead of you?" The question entered the room quietly. Naomi's eyes shifted toward him. Something changed there. Not anger. Recognition. As if he'd accidentally touched a thought, she avoided finishing herself. Then voices approached from the hallway outside. Naomi stepped back immediately. Distance restored. Elena appeared in the doorway carrying donation envelopes. She stopped when she saw them standing together. Only for a second. But Jordan noticed. Naomi noticed Jordan noticing. "We're almost done in here," Naomi said quickly. Elena nodded. Too quickly, too. "Okay." Her eyes flicked once toward Jordan. Evaluating. Not him specifically. His proximity. Jordan lifted the tablecloths awkwardly. "I should rescue the folding tables before they unionize." Nobody laughed. He left anyway. After he disappeared, Elena began organizing envelopes that were already organized. Naomi dried the same tray twice. The silence between them thickened slowly. Finally Elena spoke without looking up. "He asks a lot of questions." Naomi folded the towel smaller. "He's on yearbook." "That's not what I meant." Naomi looked toward her mother. "You usually mean something else." The sentence settled heavily between them. Elena stopped moving. Not dramatic. Just still. A refrigerator motor kicked on somewhere behind them. Naomi's voice softened slightly. "Why do people keep acting like there's something wrong with me?" Elena finally looked up. There it was again. That fear. Not disgust. Not shame. Fear. "You're not wrong," Elena said quietly. Naomi held her gaze. "Then why does everybody sound careful around me?" Elena opened her mouth. Nothing came out. Footsteps echoed somewhere in the hallway again. Church volunteers laughing faintly in the distance. Normal life continuing. Elena lowered her eyes first. "We should finish cleaning up." And Naomi understood immediately. That was the answer she was getting tonight. Near midnight, Naomi sat cross-legged on her bedroom floor again. The house quiet around her. Rain tapping softly against the windows now. She held the crumpled photography proof sheet Jordan had accidentally left in the church kitchen earlier. The blurred girl in the corner still half turning away from the camera. At the bottom. No file found. Naomi stared at those words a long time. Then slowly stood and crossed toward her closet. From the highest shelf she pulled down an old plastic storage bin. Inside, school papers, medical receipts, birthday decorations, tax folders, old insurance documents. Carefully she began searching. Not frantic. Methodical. Halfway through the box, her fingers stopped. A manila envelope. Unlabeled. Sealed. Naomi stared at it without opening it. Downstairs, pipes shifted softly inside the walls. The house settling around secrets too old to stay buried comfortably. Naomi held the envelope tighter. And somewhere beneath the fear now, something else had started. Curiosity. The dangerous kind.